Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Making Sense with Dr. Stacy. For those of you just joining us for the first time, I am Dr. Stacy Betancourt, PhD in Advanced Studies of Social Human Behavior. And those who have seen before know exactly who I am, so welcome back to those of you joining us. So today we're going to talk about forgiveness, and this is a little bit of a deeper topic. So this is not about bullet journals, planners, although a bullet journal can be helpful in this. And I'll talk about that connection in just a little bit. But this might be something hard for some of you. And if someone experienced some backup over this, please, if you have someone you trust that you can talk to about it, please seek that help. If you don't, I would be absolutely happy to help out. My contact information will be in the comments below. Also, if you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel, okay? And if any of the links help you, good. And so let's get started. Forgiveness, okay. When I talk about forgiveness, I'm not talking about the, oh, sorry, my bad. Oh, I forgive you. Yeah, if it were that, it would be trivial and it doesn't have to be meaningful. It's, it's a societal expectation. I said, I'm sorry, I forgive you. Okay, but what if it goes beyond that? What if that hurt has been long-standing? What if it has gone on either generational, kind of drawing back on your life's experience, people that you have in your life that continually hurt you, and they think that magic band-aid, I am sorry or I'm sorry, is going to fix everything. And the idea of forgiving, it's hard. The thing is that there comes a point where you have got to ask yourself, is this worth the hurt? Is this worth the continued hurt? And how much are you sacrificing in yourself by giving that forgiveness? Now, what I want to do is that kind of sets the stage a little bit, but what I like to really focus on is you as the person being hurt. And I will not use the term victim because nobody is a victim by choice, okay? And you can disagree with me on that, but I've done a lot of research and that's okay. If you want to debate that, I would be happy to. But the idea is, if you are continually allowing somebody to hurt you physically, emotionally, socially, it is time to begin questioning, what is it about yourself that allows yourself to be there? Now, there could be many motivations, and I'm not talking domestic violence. If you are in a domestic violence situation, please reach out to me. You need to get out, okay? But what I'm talking about, it is a form of abuse, yes. Growing up, I'll use myself as an example, but I grew up with parents that in themselves, my mother suffered from some emotional and mental anxiety that created her own problems. My father had no motivation for himself. He didn't believe in himself. He had dreams, big dreams, but he did not have what it took to go after those dreams. So I was raised, though separately without my father, but I was still raised in a situation where I had a mother who tried to tell me I wasn't smart enough, who told me on a regular basis that I wasn't good enough, that told me some not so kind things. And yes, we began to believe those over time, and it takes a lot to break out. And yes, I have broken out. My father, again, taking his own inhibitions and his own lack of confidence, put that on me as the expectation, you're my child, so you have the same problems I do. Well, some of it, sure, there's genetics, right? Okay, and some of that brain development that goes on is genetic. There are some things there, but you can overcome. And again, I have overcome, not only as a person, but as an academic. The thing is that you need to be able to separate yourself. My parents had their own problems, and yes, both of my parents have since passed away, but they had their own problems, and they put their problems onto me through their words and their actions. And I was told on their deaths that I needed to forgive them because they were dead. Well, they're dead. Why should it matter? And the thing is that forgiving them post-mortem, it's not like they're going to benefit from it, right? But I can. And that's the point. People think about forgiveness, and I was guilty of this. People think about forgiveness as showing the other person the forgiveness. Now, in my parents' case, there's a lot of substance abuse and other things as well. So there's a whole different perspective that we'll talk about in future episodes. But the thing is that who did I need to forgive more? My parents or myself? And the thought may be, but you didn't do anything wrong. You were a victim of this. Well, again, there are no victims. There's a choice. I could choose to believe and follow everything that they said and perceived for me, or I could look at myself, wipe my own slate clean, and move on with my life and make these choices. And when I did that, doors began to open. No, I didn't go on to be the famous actress and singer that I was destined to be, but I have created a life that I'm pretty happy about. And one of those things is gaining the knowledge to be able to talk to all of you. And what I mean by forgiveness is that you have to forgive yourself for accepting and taking in the things that have been said to you. Because if I believed what was said to me sometimes, like pretty regularly, my mom's key phrase was, if you had a brain, you'd be dangerous. Guess what? I'm dangerous because I do have a brain. And the problem is when we go through that generational trauma and we hear those things every day of our life, we believe them. And it takes true forgiveness within ourselves, not forgiving the person necessarily, because that person, no matter what their relationship is to you, should not matter in the sense that they control your life. When you give somebody else control, then you lack 10 times more control within yourself. And when I began to realize that I needed to forgive myself for believing those things that were said to me, and to really truly focus on who am I and why am I here? And what is my purpose and my goal for myself? And those things, and we talked about goals last week. And the thing is that if we don't begin to lay the foundation of forgiving ourselves and letting go of past hurts, we can never be who we were meant to be. And some of us, it seems like when you stand back and you look at your life, you've been through so much. And for those of you who have been hurt, I'm sorry that you were chosen to go through that hurt. And it's a cliche, I'm not going to lie, but some of us are chosen to go through hurt in order to rise and overcome. And when we rise and we overcome, our lives become so much stronger. We become more stronger in ourselves, but also in our confidence. And one of the first things that happens in generational trauma, or even parental to child single generation trauma, the first thing that the parent, or however far back this goes, is trying to do is rob you of your confidence. And when you're being robbed of your confidence, you cannot believe you are capable to do anything. Well, my stepmom used to tell me all the time, you can and you will. And when I was younger, those were hard words to accept. And I'm talking about the age of 9, 8.5, 9 years old, 10 years old, because I was so convinced that I couldn't do anything because I wasn't capable, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't all these things. When in actuality, it only takes one person to believe in you. And that's great. But even more deeply, that person needs to be yourself. So how do you build a self-confidence? It doesn't happen overnight. That's the bad news. The good news is you're worth every step you take forward to make that change. And yes, you can make that change. You can choose anything. You can do anything you need to do and want to do. You have to be willing to do a couple of things for me. Now, hold on. Those things sometimes include failure. They do. There's no other way to say it. Sometimes you will fail, and sometimes you will have a bad day, and sometimes these things will back up on you. But let me tell you something, you're worth it. Get up, move forward, try again, because you're worth trying for. And that's what I want you to understand. And the moment you get up and you try again, you are giving yourself forgiveness. And it may not seem like it, but yes, my friends, it is. You are giving yourself the freedom of forgiveness. And you will find that as you forgive yourself and you keep pulling, pushing, kicking, dragging, whatever it needs to happen, you're pulling yourself forward. And when you're pulling yourself forward, you are gaining confidence by forgiving yourself of things that are not yours to carry. That's what I mean in forgiveness. You need to forgive. You need to go through the mental act of forgiving yourself, because you are carrying the burden put on you by other people who didn't have that right. It wasn't their right to do that to you. So by giving those things up and moving yourself forward and telling yourself, I can, because I'm worth it. We've heard those commercials, I can because I'm worth it. Yes, you're worth it, because holding on to it, the grief, the anguish, the ugly words, you're not forgiving yourself. You cannot control what the other people do to you and say to you. And there will come a time where you don't need to be with those people, because if they are pulling you down, they're pulling you down with them. And you don't need to do that. You don't. So, bottom line, learn to forgive yourself, even though the actions were not caused by you. Forgive yourself for falling into it. Now, if you're brainwashed from childhood, it's going to take some time and you're going to probably need some help. And please Don't be afraid to ask for help, because you're worth that. You're worth having confidence. You're worth being able to fall down, get back up, laugh at yourself, and move forward. Is it bad to laugh at yourself? Now, some people may say, yeah, it's not good. Yes, it is. It's whatever emotion you need to express. If you get up and you dust yourself off and you're like, oops, did it again, that's okay. If you sit down and you cry for a moment, because that's what gets the emotions out, then do that. I want to caution you on anger. Anger can be a very, 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 and it is a very, 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 very negative response. Now, for some people, that's your mechanism. But I'm going to encourage you to think of a different type of mechanism. If it means you go cry, cry. But when you're done crying, you will not cry over that ever again. You will take back your confidence. You will take back your control. And you will not let that person or those things said to you hurt you anymore. And again, if you need help with this, I really, really ask that you do seek help, whether it's with me or another practitioner. You definitely seek out and get help, because you're worth it. And letting go of the things that are not yours. Don't carry them. It's too big of a burden. Remember to love yourself. That may sound silly, but it's so valid. You need to learn to love yourself. You need to learn to like yourself. And you need to begin to understand what you're absolutely capable of. And remember, there are people here to help. If not for me, somebody else. So I hope that this resonates. For those of you that it does resonate, I hope that you're able to reach in and take control and be your best self, because you deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. Okay? And so what I'm going to say from here is to give yourself some grace. Be a good human. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Nobody knows what someone else is going through. Okay? So try your best. Make it genuine. Believe in yourself. And I will see you next week. I'm Dr. Stacey Betancourt with Making Sense with Dr. Stacey. Take care and have a great week.